So everybody, how's that sitting with y'all? Pretty good?
Yeah.
Right. I just want to say, as somebody, wait, are we recording?
About to be for now. I don't want to do it with the. No, that's recording. Yeah.
All right, that's good enough.
And this is too. We good.
I just want to say, as someone who's worked closely with some of the fabulous people like Tamara, Tamara, sorry. Like literally, not these people. I'm here with you guys in those Monday meetings, Jeffy, right, Ramondo, of course you. And throughout this conversation, you'll get to know them, get to meet some of them, find out what's going on. But to see that so wonderfully made was amazing, especially seeing where we kind of left off and how far we've gone since then. So I'm sure we're going to get into all that right now. But first, let's introduce our panel. All right. So I guess we'll go first because yeah. So I'm Kiosha Taylor.
I'm Keenan Mose.
We're Justice Vanguard, and in Mountain View and Los Altos, we work diligently with those such as Lair, Los Altos
Los Altos for Racial Equity.
Just so you know, I don't know any of your guys' acronyms.
There's two.
I have no idea what that stands for. But with that said, though, one of the big things in 2020 Justice Vanguard was about was getting police off of school campuses, restorative justice, and getting better mental health resources into our schools. Luckily, in 2020, we got SROs off of Los Altos High campus. This is the part where you clap. And in Mountain View, we've basically eliminated all of their use. So, and then briefly, we had a pretty good victory over here in San Jose Equity, but that was short-lived. So that's just a little bit about how JV fits into this bigger picture, and like always, we stand alongside all of you guys in this ongoing battle, and pretty sure we're all in this for the marathon. So that mic should work. So pop that one on.
Cool. I'm Skylar Glover. I'm a co-director of Innocence.
I am Lori Valdez. I'm the founder of justiceforjosiah.org, and I'm one of the people you see.
My name is Goran Zanati. I'm co-director for Innocence.
My name is Asha Sudra. I'm an artist, abolitionist, educator, and just happy to be here.
So let's just begin with the process of making the movie. What drove you guys to make a movie about the school to prison pipeline, specifically here in San Jose?
I think, following during and following the protests against the murder of George Floyd, we just noticed that a lot of the mainstream coverage was not really, going into the community to find out exactly what the community was demanding. They were reducing the community demands to sound bites like defund the police and stuff like that. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to tell that story, and we were lucky enough to be welcomed in by the community in San Jose to tell their story and why they were protesting and what defund the police really meant. And ultimately our goal was to take that to the mainstream, and we were lucky enough to get this film into the Los Angeles Times, and since then it's sort of developed a global audience, so it's been really good.
You kind of summed it all up. That was good. The community in San Jose is amazing. I don't know how to describe it. It's so different, but not at the same time. It's like any other community, any other Black and brown community, in the sense of, as you continue to go and you meet more people, you begin to peel back layers that you didn't realize existed. And as we met more and more folks in the film, we realized that they all knew each other and that their stories intertwined and created almost a mosaic. This film was a mosaic. It was people in different parts of their lives and different colors of their lives, but all together it was very much the same story. So thank you, everybody, for letting us do this.
Talk about working with the community. I think something that we hear, from the public safety boards of a lot of these different cities is, well, we really tried to reach out to the community, but we just didn't know where to find them. And so we just did, talk to a few people we knew, and that's how we came to their decision. I know they did that in Mountain View when it came to the police departments. I know that happens a lot out here. And I was just curious what you guys did to find the community that they seem to never be able to find.
Yeah, well, I actually grew up in San Jose Unified School District, and I've not only seen the types of stories, I've seen my peers. I grew up in San Jose as a kid of immigrant parents, and had a lot of Black and brown friends that were impacted by the sort of stuff that is still going on today, decades later. And so I was already familiar with what was going on, and I was lucky to know a few people that were active at the time when the protests were taking place in the San Jose community. And so, they introduced, Skylar and I to Latoya first, and then from there we kind of just, started meeting the next person, and it just kind of snowballed. And everybody was really welcoming, and when we did release this film, we got a lot of congratulations from the community for the work. But what we always told everybody was this was a community effort. Everybody should be congratulating themselves for how much they contributed and how much they were laying out on the table for us to be able to tell this story. So we really appreciate it.
So, which one do you want to ask?
I was gonna say, do you have questions? I know we have a bunch.
Yeah, we have a bunch of questions, but we would like to open it up to the public. So, any?
Maybe I could say something real quick.
Please.
Can I contextualize why I'm sitting here? Because I wasn't in the video, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not like, they got, you know what I'm saying? So I think, so Jeffy somewhere asked me, hey, to be here today. So just to contextualize things a little bit. I was a public school teacher for 10 years over on the west side in Campbell. And in October of 2019, SROs were placed on my campus as a response to the principal at the middle school that I was working at physically grabbing the hair of a girl and slamming her to the ground. The response was to put police officers on campus. By February of 2020, a couple days right after Valentine's Day, for a couple weeks, me and the kids had mobilized. I taught them about youth movement. I put them on ed code and kind of had them lead the fight. They wanted to burn the school down. We backed it up a little bit, right, and kind of put them into a position where they could really amplify their voice. And so the night before the rally that we had been organizing, that I was told that if I were to come to campus the next morning, I would be arrested, my credential would be revoked, and I would be charged with inciting a riot. Cool, right? So I'm in the DMs with the kids because that's how we mobilized together on IG through the DMs. And I was like, look, this is the situation. I told you this could happen. I'm good. Go in the morning and make sure you do what you gotta do, right? And so they did, because they came to me after their research of looking at youth movements and told me, hey, Miss A, we realized the thing that really helped push movements forward were media attention, right? And so thanks to y'all for doing that, especially for telling this story. And because I'm an artist, I had a little bit of media juice in the city. Thankfully, Debug came through, put the video on, the video went viral. I lost my job completely. The principal was removed from the campus, but so were the police. This happened in February of 2020, so when I was standing with Derek in June, he was standing next to me, and next to me was one of my former students. And so they were part of this movement prior to this kind of spark for global racial recognizing, and I think that's kind of why Jeffy added me into here, just so that there's a larger contextualization of what was happening in our community. Thanks, y'all. I appreciate it.
So, how does it feel you came closer to getting in trouble for inciting the riot than the president of the time?
You know what I'm saying?
I don't know, it just seems a little messed up to me.
But like historically accurate. Like this,
Oh,
this
yeah.
could be used before. It was not a surprise. It was traumatizing. It was horrible. But I can look at other people throughout history in which this has happened. Right? This is an institution that they come for you, and so I knew that already.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, man, thank you so much for standing up for our kids, though.
Oh yeah, all day.
I was just curious, while working on this project, what was something that surprised you guys as you created this movie? Like, what was something you went into this and didn't realize, like, what's going on here? Something that took you by surprise?
I think it was kind of what I touched on earlier, just the interconnectedness and how folks might not interact on a day-to-day basis, but they relate in so many different ways, and that pain and that struggle unites them and allows for a universal language to be seen or created, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree 100%. I think even growing up here, I didn't really connect with any activist community, and so coming down here during that time and seeing how everybody was working together and everybody was pushing towards, advancing some, important cause, it was really, it created a newfound respect for San Jose that, it was beautiful to see.
I want to say that Beja, Toya, Tamara, all these, and Jeffy, and the ones that were in the movie with me, Toya and Beja, they met me because of my advocacy. I say advocacy for the kids left behind. Once police kill a parent, the children that are left behind, nobody acknowledges, okay? And this is why I named my organization Just for Josiah, which was my 4-year-old son at the time when his father was killed, because there's no justice for his father, Antonio, because he's dead. But Antonio was a father that would want to make sure his son was going to be okay in this world without him, right? So we needed the justice for him and for every other child that he represented. And I met Beja and Toya at an event when they heard me speaking, and they said, you hit everything on the nose of what I went through, the kids. I said, my son now will have to grow up fatherless, living this trauma forever. But if our community is not even acknowledging him or recognizing him or offering him any kind of support, how is he gonna grow up to be a productive citizen and not a broken man, right? Because once you get in school and his trauma affects him in a way where he just gonna shut down right away, he's a bad kid, he doesn't wanna pay attention, and it's happened many times for my son. And Beja and Toya, when they heard me saying, they were crying, they came up to me, so they were like my daughters, my adopted daughters, and they were saying, what you said about what Josiah, that's what we went through when we were kids. There was things that we went through and nobody listened, nobody cared, they just thought we were bad kids, right? And that hurt me because that's the story of so many kids in our school systems where the teachers are not trauma-informed taught. So they see behavior, bad behavior, they see the bad behavior that they want to call it, or these at-risk children, which I do not like to call them that. They are children that have traumas, that people need to learn how to see it, recognize it, and help bring that healing to these children before they grow up to be broken men. Because if we can't see a child as a child, their behavior is a form of communication because they can't do it verbally all the time, right? And so when a child breaks down and doesn't want to do something, how do you reach that child if that child doesn't have the adult there to advocate for them, that doesn't have an adult that understands that trauma, right? And so, perfect example, my son, he was going to counseling, and a school counselor at his school, he would come home every Wednesday and he would be quiet. And so the school year went over, and then the following year was coming up. I said, I'm registering you for counseling because you still have a lot of issues. He still does today, but he would say, no, I'm not going. I don't want to go. I said, if you don't tell me why, I can't help you. I need to know why. Why don't you want to go? So he finally broke down and he said, Mommy, he goes, every time I go in to see her and I talk about my dad, and she says, Josiah, I don't want you coming in here talking about your dad and start crying. You need to get over it already. So if you're going to come in here, let's talk about something else. She silenced my son's pain. She silenced she made his feelings invalid. So that broke his trust, and every adult in the school system said they don't care, right? They don't care. So I didn't send him back to counseling. I got her fired, of course. She's lucky I didn't get her the day he told me. I had to let myself calm down because I would have probably ended up in jail, but I knew myself, and so I had to give myself a few days to calm down. Then I addressed it with the school. I said, how many children did this lady silence their pain and never help them? She has no business being here because she silenced my son's pain. Who's going to tell a kid who loves his father, you know what, stop crying, get over it already. You can't get over it. He'll never get over it. He's going to have to learn to live with it and learn to express his emotions. And so then when Goran and them came to me and said, it's a much bigger, the innocence of a child when it's taken at a very young age, and then they go to school and there's not people who are trauma-informed taught and stuff, that leads to the school to prison pipeline. And that's what I didn't want, and that was one of my biggest fears. So when they approached me and said, you know, we want to incorporate, I said yes, because this story needs to be told. It's more bigger than anybody. When a child is traumatized and people aren't trained to understand that, so many kids are going to fall in that school to prison pipeline. And I, for myself, didn't want that for my son or any other child. And there's many children in our community who are not offered support. The kids that are the survivors of people who the police killed, they are not offered any kind of support through the victim witness. So if everybody wants to know, because they put the officer as a victim, it denies the family, the children, any kind of emotional, social support, counseling, whatever for them. And this is going to last with them forever. And this is something that we also have to fix. But so that's why I was glad to be part of this, because it's a bigger story. And that's how Toya and mine and Beja are all interconnected, because the trauma, the violence, you know, it's all part of a system that doesn't care. And they're going to spit these kids out like they're nothing.
In our Monday meetings, you always do such a good job of just like keeping us on that point and keeping that up. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I was going to have questions for you, but you did a really good job of answering. So I was going to be asking about what happens when the kid does go to a counselor. Like, what does that look like? Because we know that a lot of these counselors use high schools as their way to get hours and kind of leave and go on to the next thing where they could be high paid. And
I mean,
you did a really good job answering all of it. So I just appreciate you for being here with us.
Yeah, the whole counseling thing, that's a whole other conversation we're gonna have. But actually, that's a whole other conversation we're gonna have as a community. It's not just, you know, those issues of trauma that counselors are failing our kids at, you know. It's also, for example, when we went to school, none of them believed in us just because we were black kids, and they assumed, you know, they had all these biases against us the second we walked in the door.
You can't go to it for you. You should just look at only the 2 years.
Exactly.
Without even knowing your GPA or anything else.
We were never allowed to challenge ourselves, right?
Exactly. You don't take the AP courses, just take the normal ones. This might be too stressful of a curriculum for you, of a rigor for you.
So that's just you know, keep that in the back of your
Well,
head.
I want to remind you, yesterday, my son Josiah came home from school, and he always shares things that goes on in school. He's learned to share with me, but he hasn't learned to get his voice. But he told me, Mom, you know what happened to my friend Riley today? And I said, what's going on? He goes, his teacher told him, I don't care if you even try anymore to get good grades. I just need you to sit in your seat so I get paid. So this is the kind of people we have in our school systems that really don't care about these kids. And I told Josiah, I'm gonna always tell Riley's mom to file a complaint with the principal. And of course, I right away typed it to the principal and said, hey, this came to my I always tell him my son will tell me. So get up on it, because these teachers will say things to these kids. Like one teacher said, I can't stand 7th graders. I don't even know why I'm teaching them. And that's her responsibility. And my son's a 7th grader, so I'm like, so this is the kind of stuff. If we're not paying attention to our youth in schools, if they don't have that adult that they can go to and trust to say, hey, you know what, this is being done, this isn't right. They know it's not, and it makes them feel uncomfortable, but if they have that one adult in that school system or one adult they could say that can advocate for them, that's gonna help them learn to believe in people and know that what they're feeling is valid and that what is being said to them is wrong, and we need to fix it before many more children are hurt, because that was wrong what that teacher told them. Like, they're not just a dollar sign. If she's not willing to educate them, then she has no business being there, period.
So you're saying we need more teachers like Mara and Will over here, right?
Right here, I'm sending Josiah to
Oh, yeah,
We've asked a lot of questions, so we want to open it up for everyone. There we go. We already got the first hand up. I'm gonna come over with the mic so we can catch the audio too.
Feel free to popcorn it around too.
So yeah, thank you so much for being here. You are all courageous, and I just want to thank you for that. Can you catch us up on what has happened in San Jose since then?
Do you want to take this one tomorrow? Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Tamara. I'm a special education in Union School District, but I help with the San Jose Unified Equity Coalition. So I did connect with Goran and Skylar way back then in 2020, and for those of you who were around, I did run for school board in San Jose Unified at the time, but my campaign wasn't as successful, unfortunately, and so I continue to organize with the rest of San Jose Unified Equity Coalition, SJUEC, and so by the end of 2021, the school year 2020 to 2021, we were able to get cops off the campus, so cheer for that, please. It was hard. I remember just doing a lot of organizing, specifically with a lot of the teachers and the parents, and then LaToya and I were leading like this youth, like online activist kind of movement just to do like digital action in addition to things that were being done on the ground. Educating, we were working with students in the high schools and just like leading all of these informational things, working with the Teachers Association, working with lots of people in the community, just to try and educate about what is going on in the schools and how it's disproportionately students of color who are being policed in San Jose Unified, and that was the data that the students themselves found and they were presenting on. And so we were hoping for everyone to listen, and so by June 2021, cops were off campus. Unfortunately, August 2021, they were brought back as extracurricular type of security guards for like after school events and dances and sporting events. And so it was then established by the December that the schools, like for example, the school site council and as well as the principals have the discretion to hire police if they so chose in their safety plans. And so little by little, every school was deciding to do that. And so by the end of the year 2021 to 2022, almost all schools had decided to do that, which was very unfortunate. And thankfully, Hoover Middle School was one that didn't decide, and they are one of the ones that really is trying to push for restorative justice. And then we got also one of our educators in San Jose Unified in our equity coalition who was just really in the classroom, in our meetings, on the ground, trying to work with his colleagues and everybody else and his students, just really trying to continue the fight. And you know, this is as Kyoshi had mentioned, it's a marathon. We're gonna continue pushing for equity and pushing for change and trying to get rid of this oppressive system in schools, this punitive system, so long as it's there. But if the leadership that's there isn't going to listen, then we have to organize, like Asha was saying. And it's gonna come to a point where we're really gonna have, like the students themselves are definitely gonna be at the forefront. We have to listen to them, we have to guide them, but we as adults are gonna, for those of us who have students or children, for those of us who have an opportunity to make a decision based off of what you're hearing from you, we're gonna all have to do what's right. And in some cases that might be like, you know, organizing something, a protest, a walkout, something big. In some cases it might be getting everybody to the school board over and over and, you know, arguing, which we've been doing a lot. So a lot of people did show up to that, and thank you everybody. And in some cases it's gonna mean a new change of leadership. And so we need people to run. That's my call to action for a lot of you. And people are gonna have to just get into these school leadership positions that are administrative level that are paid, but also in these school board levels that are elected. And we're gonna have to change things that way in addition to the mindset, and that's sometimes harder to change. And so that's just a little bit, but Jeffy, if you wanna share, or Eduardo, if there's anything else you wanna say, I will pass the mic back. Did it answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. I was just going to ask you, the panel, so we were able to, as Kiyoshi said, get the SROs off of our local high school, but we hired a new police chief who has now indicated that she's going to want to put them back on the high school campus. I was just wondering if there's anything we can do preemptively to avoid that from happening. Like
one thing, because you mentioned this too, about like, what is it about this 1 year thing? Part of the reason why they keep putting it back and why actually Sonoma will be joining our fights pretty soon is because they did nothing to put restorative justice in place, right?
Yeah.
So actually, once it goes away, everyone's like, oh, look, we have a problem. Here's our old school solution, right? So since we never got any of those, you know, they gave us this token gesture, they never actually put in the restorative justice we needed to actually have this be a viable solution. But I would like to hear what the panel has to.
I would like to say that if the police chief wants to put him, tell him, you need to just put him on the, why? Police have never kept our children safe. Look at all the school, just give that, look at all the school shootings. How many officers saved those children? Not a single one. They came after the fact. They don't keep us safe. They actually criminalize and they traumatize kids. Like a child said on my son's school, like, Josiah, why does that cop have a gun on campus? We're just like little kids. Why do they have to have a gun? And that's the fear that kids are like, why do cops have to be on our campuses with guns? We're little kids, right? Yeah. But are the cops hearing that? Are the teachers hearing that? No, because they're not listening to the children. And that's what they say. Prove to us that cops make our kids safer. Prove to us. How many of you are trauma? Ask them, are you trauma informed? So you're gonna know when a child is suffering trauma, you know how to see it and recognize it, you know what to do. Question them like that, because I put a lot of cops on, what's trauma informed to you? Tell me, when a child is traumatized, tell me, how do you see it and how do you approach it? And you know what? None of them can answer. So if you can't answer that, you have no business being around a child. We need trauma-informed teachers, counselors, social work. We need restorative justice circles. We need to bring in support services, and we need to, my biggest thing is, we need to stop these community schools that make kids outcasts, right? The kids that go to these community schools, they're the bad kids. They're the kids that are this and that. They're not bad. There's something going on that nobody's reaching. Leave them with their peers and bring in the support services network, right? Let their peers be, don't make them outcasts, because then those kids stop believing. Why do we have to go to these schools? Because everybody knows you send a kid to this school or that school, that's for the bad kids. No kid is bad, I'm sorry. Kids are not born bad. It's all the adults who have touched that child's life, who didn't do or say or protect that child and help that child find a way to get its voice, to get the help they need so they can begin the healing process.
I'd like to answer that as well. So, you know, both Kiyoshi and Lori, touched on something that is very true, especially in South County for us, is two things. One is that restorative justice, we've had restorative justice trainers coming for the last 4 or 5 years to the school district and train school and police staff, including the school resource officers, on restorative justice. But sometimes the system, which is, and I say this, is very conscious of what we're doing. And so they co-opt what we do. And so they co-opted restorative justice, and they check the box and they say, well, we've trained our staff on restorative justice, but they don't stop arresting kids. They don't stop expelling kids. They don't stop pushing kids off campuses. And then to touch bases on what Lori just spoke is that we offer programming for kids who've been released from juvenile facilities into court schools. And the trend that we've seen, and sometimes I feel like we're sharing the same mind, but we've seen middle school kids start coming into the court schools who've never been in the court process. The court schools were designed, it's called a court school, right? They were designed for kids who've been in juvenile facilities or been through the court system and then go to school at the court school. Now junior high school kids or middle school kids are being directly referred without ever going to court to the court school. And now they're the majority in the court school. There's more junior high kids who have been expelled and pushed off of campuses in South County at our court school than there is kids who are coming from the court or juvenile facilities. That's a problem. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Speak to the question real quick. Yeah, a couple things, right? So education is where like movement words go to die, right? Like equity is lost. We lost the word equity. Equity means something new to the system of education, right? And the same thing has happened to the term restorative justice, right? So coming intentionally from an indigenous practice, right? If we bring it into an institution, it is therefore colonized, right? So we have to kind of let some of that go, knowing that we're not really gonna get there. Right now we call it transformative justice, right? Because y'all took restorative justice from us, right? So now we're gonna call it transformative, because we're not gonna restore anything if it wasn't there to begin with, right? We're gonna transform that foundation of what it is. Actually, what happened is after I lost my job in 2020 in February, I ended up becoming an educational consultant. And so now my practice is doing that restorative work and dismantling anti-Blackness within school sites and education. And I also have an art-based trauma-informed curriculum that's out for high schools, right? And so there's a lot of things that we need to be able to do. And so the thing is, right, is that, we have all been socialized into carceral logic. And so even students that are present in a school that quote unquote practices restorative justice are saying, but that kid didn't get in trouble. They want the kid to get punished, right? Because we have all been conditioned to carceral logic. So part of this is, yes, getting those police officers off campus because we know they are committing harm and trauma every single day, day in, day out. And the harder part, and the part that's a lot slower and a lot more moves like molasses, right, is that shifting of the ways of being. And that's this work that happens, right, in these, it's a lot of the times it's annoying, and I gotta bite my tongue a lot of these times, but it's this workshop method and modality where we can approach staff, administrators, board leaders, all of those folks to also shift their mindset so that they're not thinking, we gotta bring the police back in. Because if they're still thinking that that's a viable option, then we haven't shifted our way of being just yet, right? And so that's also part of this work, and it's harder. You don't see the progress. It's very much planting a seed and then hoping that thing grows, you know what I'm saying? So it's twofold, and I think we have to approach it in a multitude of ways, but we can't help the fact that we are ingrained into a carceral logic in our society, and so part of that is decolonizing that approach, right? Thank you.
Thank you. So we're gonna do 2 more questions, and I'm gonna give you guys a heads up. I'll be passing it to you to end it up after with last statement you want to make, whether it's a call to action, because we're a big fan of having that call to action when someone's out here and we have a group together. What is it that they should leave doing? If it's a piece of advice that you might have, or something else that you want to say as like a last remark. And the goal, I like people say like 10 words, just like a minute. Keep it nice and quick so people remember what it is. And then I know pass it here, and then if there was any other questions, we're gonna go 1, 2 then. Here you go.
Hi, I'm Carmen. I have 2 questions. Sorry. They'll be quick, man.
It's okay.
Okay, so are you guys the directors? Yes.
Yeah.
Funding, right? These are stories that need to be told, but we don't get funding to do this. So were you guys able to do that? And then for Asha, I keep on calling you Aisha. Asha, can you expand on what you mean by abolition?
We self-funded mostly.
Not good.
It's not good, but
that's great that you did.
we were able to secure some funding through school. This was created at the Graduate School of Journalism at Berkeley, but I feel as though we need to make these stories regardless, and funding isn't the end-all, be-all in a sense, Our ingenuity, our ability to make something out of nothing is bigger than sometimes the things with the big money, So stay with it and you can make something.
Maybe that's where we can step in those communities and help you.
Yes,
Right.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I echo what Skylar said again, and I think it's also just really good to be able to connect as filmmakers with local organizations that want to advance some message or cause, because we can sort of shape that into something like a film and help carry that message to a broader audience. So, any organizations, talk to us.
Real quick, where can people find this film, Kurt?
The film is currently available on the Los Angeles Times. They have a short docs platform, so it's available there. We also have a partnership with an organization called SEMA, and what they do is they're kind of like the Netflix of education. So they've been carrying this film to schools all over the world, and they've recently, pitched our film, and which was accepted by the United Nations UNESCO, that did 2 separate screenings in, I believe, South Korea of all places. So it's being used as an educational tool to show people about racial inequities in the United States, educate people, and also in one of those 2 events, it was also used as a way to inspire communities there to organize their own grassroots movement similar to what's going on in San Jose. So San Jose has become an inspiration for communities in Asia.
Yeah, so as abolitionist educator, I think, Mama raised me right, so, I gotta pay homage first. It comes from, really, I would say, the works of, James Baldwin, Bell Hooks, Audre Lorde, June Jordan, and really is more prominently coined by the educator, Dr. Bettina Love. And she talks about this idea of being an abolitionist educator in the sense of knowing that schools as an institution have created and committed so much trauma to Black, Indigenous, people of color, queer people, trans people, that we can no longer really put our faith in the idea and concept of a school, right? We believe in education, but the institution of a school, right, you look around, they look like prisons. And so, as an abolitionist educator, right, Derricka Purnell writes about the idea that if there is a fire, I'm gonna figure out whatever method I can to put that fire out. Even if some of my methods fail, I'm going to do whatever I can to not let that fire continue to stay ablaze. And so whether that means using my hands to carry water, even though there are things dripping through, I am going to be committed to continuing to work and rework and reiterate different strategies to putting that fire out, knowing that it's committing harm to the community, right? And so it's this dedication, and I would certainly just advocate if you are a scholar or you like to read. Dr. Bettina Love wrote a wonderful book that really kind of breaks down some of that perspective in a little bit more of a nuanced and, I would say, better articulated way. But yeah, so, we're not doing the school thing anymore, right? Like, schools have already committed so much trauma that we have to now radically imagine what education can look like for our communities when it really benefits us. By us, for us.
Can we just put it up on the screen? If you go to Justice Vanguard /no SROs, right?
Yep.
You can find a bunch of different resources, and we will be putting a link so people can on there find not only the panel discussion from tonight, but your guys' wonderful, wonderful work. So yeah, let's have some closing remarks.
Start at the end.
We talked a lot. Y'all
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm hearing a lot of recurring themes. You mentioned, it's like they pause on SROs for 1 year and then they bring them back. And I think, I want to, sort of just reiterate what you were saying about, the importance of restorative justice or transformative justice being part of the conversation. I don't want to get the years wrong, but I know that in Santa Clara, like in the early 2000s, they did introduce a program that, supported from the county, I believe from the county level, counselors and different, other, non-punitive measures for children at the schools. And I believe the program only lasted 2 years, although it was 6.
I worked there.
Oh, okay.
6 years.
6 years. And can I ask, do you feel like it was successful?
It was, and I wanted to, later on I'll make the remark, but it was shut down by the union, by the probation officers union, because we were too successful. And so they were losing
They were
work,
losing
which
their
they're
jobs.
still doing. They're still doing right now. They're still opposed to restore justice because they're losing kids in the justice system right now. People don't know this because there's a lot of alarmist kind of news going on that brown and black kids are on this like upswing in crime. No, it's actually like a 19% dip in the last 20 years of youth crime.
Yeah, and so there you go. And the reasoning that they were giving at the time was that, you know, they didn't have the budget to continue this program, they needed to shut it down, and so they did, and then suddenly they had a budget for SROs to be reintroduced, so it was kind of like, I know people as well that were, you know, actually worked, you know, as part of that program. They were actually also in law enforcement. They were really upset over how the program was so quickly shut down. So, you know, I think it's important to continue bringing the counseling, the transformative justice conversation into the fold, and also finding, you know, allies to sort of advocate that with the community, to make that part of the change that we want to see.
Well, let me see. Okay, my last words I want to say for everybody here today, to remember to, when you see a youth that people want to see as bad or at risk, try to change your perspective, look at them through the eyes of empathy, and reach out to that child, help them trust people so they can heal. There's a lot of children in our community who need healing, and we don't have the support of our communities. These children are invisible. My son is not invisible. Everybody here, well, most of these people, a lot of people know my son Josiah. He has grown up from 4, he's 13 now, on Facebook and in my community where I've taken him everywhere with me. And Josiah hasn't learned to use his voice yet, but yet he has great mentors, role models. He has Goran, he has Skylar, he knows Raimundo, he knows Tamara, Jeffrey, you know, he knows a lot of people. You haven't met him yet, huh? Kiyoshi hasn't met him yet.
I have not, but I'm sure.
But we're always, because we're always on a Zoom, but he hasn't got to meet him. But Kiyoshi should meet him, because I think Kiyoshi would be an amazing person for.
Hear that? I'm a good role model.
I just think Kiyoshi would be able to make that connection with Josiah. How did I know you were going to go there?
You're a mama bear.
But it's like our kids, and also whenever there's an opportunity, take a mental health first aid class to understand our kids. Justice for Josiah, we had a mental health first aid training, and 10 people from my community got certified for 3 years to do it. So I'm very grateful that they did that. I wish a lot more would have. And we will be doing another mental health first aid training. So I'm hoping any of you want to do that and be just knowing how to reach these kids, because right now mental health is a big issue with a lot of our kids, okay? And so you could go to the Josiah.org. I wish I brought my cards, but I didn't, I forgot. Oops. But anyways, thank you all for seeing this film, and thank you to Goran and Skylar, because they told our stories the way they needed to be heard, that trauma and kids and school systems, you know, is the way you lead to the school to prison pipeline, and we need to end that now.
I just want to say thank you all for coming out. These conversations are not easy to be had, and thank you to all those that helped organize this. This is amazing, and yeah, just thank you.
I want to, before anything else, there's some people who we need to thank. So make some noise for the panel right now. And then this event obviously couldn't happen without our co-partners. So please, everyone part of San Jose, please stand up. Especially tomorrow, Chris, thank you guys. Everyone who brought food, thank you very much. This was a true community event, and you know, none of this stuff is possible without you.
Justice Vanguard.
Yeah.